I am Todd Bookspan, coach with Building Champions, co-leader of the Mortgage Coach Productivity Mastermind Group, founder of Win by Noon. I guess that's probably a pretty good summary of me. And I'm kind of excited today to be closing out 2017 for you all with my good friend, John Downs. Welcome, John.
Hey, thanks, Todd. Appreciate being here today.
You know, I feel a little guilty that I had John leave his house today to come into his office to be here, but I thought of kind of what a better way to do it. John's been a great friend for a long time and really become a recent contributor to the mortgage coach community. And since his videos are rocketing up the list, our goal today is to kind of walk you through a handful of videos, sort of see what we learned from what I think is the best free resource, probably best resource overall in the mortgage or in the community, mortgage community in general, which is the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel. So we're going to rock and roll from here. Dave has let me jump in, so I'll kind of show you. I led last week, which I had a lot of fun. We're doing I'm calling this the Mortgage Coach Tuesday interview, and it's the Todd's Tuesday Takeover. I will do a quick commercial for next Tuesday. You know, it's pretty good, isn't it? Next Tuesday is going to be another Todd call. I'm going to really help us kick off 2018 next week. I've sent out some questions to a number of what I'd call influencers in the mortgage space, really to kind of see what their opinion is going into 2018 on a variety of subjects. So I'm looking forward to people joining me. We'll jump it off pretty dynamic. I think it'll be a great way to kick off the year. Today, our agenda is pretty straightforward. We're going to talk about what we've learned in 2017 from the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel. I've divided it into 3 sections: improve your client game, improve your realtor game, and improve yourself. I think that's a good way, kind of going into the new year, to sort of look at things. So I would say this: I'm going to throw out there sort of best practices and tips, right? So first off, make sure you got a pen and you're taking notes. I think that's really critical. I'm always surprised when I talk to people and they're asking me questions about something they heard on a call, and make sure that you're taking notes. I would be scheduling on time to watch videos, right? So if you don't know what on time is, that's really time to work on your business, not in your business. And what I really found was that I spend a lot of my own personal on time, even though I'm not in the production chair anymore, looking at videos. If I missed a Tuesday morning video, because that's normally when I coach, I was watching it later. And with tip number 2, speed it up. It's a great way to listen to them. Listen to them on 1.5 times speed or double speed. You can listen to it in an hour interview in 45 minutes to 30 minutes if you speed it up. Again, take notes. And then I would just be saying, what are my next 2 to 3 actions to take? And so that's sort of what John and I are going to walk you guys through here today, is sort of what are the next actions. I've got a list of these videos. You can always feel free to reach out to me afterwards as we kind of talk through any questions or tools. I'm happy to answer them. I had a couple dozen of you reach out to me after last Tuesday's call. That was kind of awesome to interact. So don't feel like you can't do that. And that's kind of really what I would say is I'm going to switch gears for a second. I'm going to share Safari here, so hopefully you guys can see that as well as John and I. And this is kind of what that YouTube page looks like. I'm hoping most of you have seen it, right? There's some smiling faces you guys recognize, of course. Let me scroll over just a hair, because I kind of was hoping you'd see John on there. Where'd you go? All right, well then maybe you'll have to see him up above. Oh, there he is, right there in the middle. That's awesome. There we go. I feel much better about that. And so, kind of running through it, I just sort of teed up the videos here along the top. And so, sort of in the improve your game with your clients category, I picked a couple of videos, and John can kind of give his 2 cents. In full disclosure, John didn't pick these videos. So if you're going to send hate mail to anyone saying I picked the wrong videos, send it to me. And I feel a little bad now that I'm realizing that my face is on this one. I was a co-leader of the call along with Dave, but ultimately it was a mastermind of how to upgrade your perfect loan process and create clients for life. And it's certainly some people that John is very, very familiar with. And I guess I would start to sort of say, if you haven't listened to this call, I'll kind of give you my couple of takeaways. So first off, I would tell you that it's funny because I've got a page of notes from it. So I went back and I ripped out my note pages, because I'm a big time note taker when I go through stuff. So if you see me looking down, it's just me checking my notes from the call. But it was funny, this call, Dave took a unique direction. He started everyone off with their Mortgage Coach Why. And so if you're not familiar with the Mortgage Coach Why piece, if you aren't a member of the Facebook Mortgage Productivity Mastermind. Go on to Facebook, search it out, and you can see in there under the files, there's the Mortgage Coach Why worksheet. And I loved it because Dave kicked off this call asking people kind of why they do it, like what's in it for you. And, my big takeaways, number one, is that all of these producers on here have a huge Mortgage Coach Why. I mean, they're really in the business for the right reasons. My second takeaway was their scripting is amazing, right? So the number one thing that you can learn, I think, from the Mortgage Coach community to up your game with your clients is your scripting piece. And listening to this group of folks is definitely a great way to do that because they have really good kind of keywords and buzzwords. I think that's one of the things you'll find about Mr. Downs here is he's great with words and with clients. And then the final thing is that there's a huge opportunity in your database in 2018, right? I know people are really worried with refinances going down, purchases going slightly up, the overall market being down, that it's going to be a tough year for some people. But I think if you are really focused on your clients, your database, Dave talks through here about this past client pull-through number. And, he did a couple of surveys in this video. And ultimately what Dave's point is that 12 out of every 100, so 12% of your clients are going to get a new mortgage in 2018, right? So that's a significant number. And Dave says, well, gosh, if you can just get half of those, you can get 6 out of 12 or 6 out of 100, 6% of all your past clients to do a refi with you. And so I think it's just kind of upping your game with your clients. And I think if you start with this video as sort of up in the process, kind of this client for life thing, I think that's a great place to start. What do you think, John?
Yeah, so of course, Todd, we've known each other for 4 or 5 years, and you'll hear some common themes, I think, in all these videos. Scripting will come up a few times, and what's interesting leading now a group of people, loan officers, is I realized that I teach a lot and tell them what to say, but I actually didn't write down the specific scripts because I thought, well, it's all genuine stuff. But your scripting can be your genuine thoughts used over and over again at the right time, right? Just to make sure that you're getting those things across. So scripting was huge. When I look back at 17 years in the business, I believe I did the first 12 years wrong. I believe the first 12 years, it was all about close the loan on time, make the realtor happy. And what was really cool about this video is, and I wish I watched this like day one, as I went through my training right before I went out into the field to make sales calls, I wish they said, now watch this video because then it'll make you think of every client differently forever. And now it was really refreshing to kind of take a step back and say, the client experience, if we just nail it for 5 to 7 years, then that whole pipeline we're just going to relive over and over and over again. And maybe you'll only have to be, beholden to referral partners, right, for that period of time. And you can be your own lead generation machine just based on good systems, good scripting, good client for life, whether it's strategic gifting or Mortgage Coach annual reviews. And so lots of ideas there that, again, if I watched, I think 17 years ago, I'd be in a very different place of business today. Luckily, I met you in the community, right? and a lot of the, Building Champions philosophy kind of started with me about 4 years ago. So I'm happy to say on the right track, but those were my high level takeaways of that video.
Well, and I love what you say, learning. So, it's funny, I circled with Dave this morning ahead of the call and kind of asked him what his takeaways were. And he said, one thing is he would love the community to use this for training, right? And so I think you'll hear that theme over and over. A lot of the top producers that are involved in the Mortgage Coach community use these videos for training with their team. And so it's just kind of a good best practice to think about. The other two things that Dave wanted me to point out is make sure you guys are making suggestions. I mean, not that we're tired of seeing the same people because they're kind of superstars, right? You see him on this video, right? John, you're not on that video, sorry. But John's here with me today. We see a lot of the other people that we see a lot, which is great, but we would love some suggestions for new people from you guys, someone that maybe in your organization that just hasn't come onto mine or Dave's radar screen. So reach out, let us know who else we should be interviewing in 2018. We would love some suggestions. And then make sure you guys are checking out the playlist. So one of the things here, let me go back in here real quick. When you look here, Dave reorganized this. He's very proud of himself. So he reorganized the stack here in the YouTube channel. So all you just go to YouTube, right? And then you just type in Mortgage Coach and it pulls up this, right? There's over 3,700 of you who are subscribed. And so what Dave has done is he's kind of done, here's the best of 2017. You'll notice that I've picked some of these videos, but there's others that I didn't, that we're adding in special. right? Real world scripts, which are kind of his quick hits, short-term stuff, realtor strategies. There's a new loan officer playlist, right? New LO comes in your office, send him or her here. Again, this is free. It's not password protected. Here's how to fast track yourself with Mortgage Coach. Of course, these Tuesday interviews, and then of course our Friday productivity mastermind. So, there's lots here, and Dave's trying to organize it to make it great for you guys. Any other suggestions, by all means, let them go or let them know. I love what you said, John, about sort of the client experience. I mean, I think that in 2018, that's going to be the big buzz, right? This whole idea around rating fans, 5-star client experience. And it does start with that initial call, right? How do you win people over? You mentioned annual reviews. I'm going to talk about sort of that as my next video that I'm going to highlight. What are you doing differently in your client experience today than you did maybe say 15 or 16 years ago when you started out in the business?
So the end of 2017 was sort of, for me, the big awareness of the wow behind Client for Life. And so, a couple things that we're doing. So strategic gifting came up in this last video. And that's one thing we're going to do a little differently is maybe we can take not just the post-closing part, but maybe even before closing, or maybe even at pre-approval, whether it be a timely little neat gift. We thought of some things like a battery charger as an example. And what if this battery charger went out right after they were pre-approved and it said something like, I know you'll be out looking at a bunch of open houses this weekend. Be sure to keep this battery charger with you so that you have some juice to give us a call when you fall in love with the perfect house, right? And so giving back, making the process really fun. And if you have, let's say, the average client in my database from initial lead conversation to closing is about 90 days. Which also means I'm probably, I need a lead nurture strategy to get to all the other people that don't buy for 12 to 18 months. It's a different story, but I think for us, Client for Life is going to be more the experience, making it so awesome that when they finish, when they hear someone complaining at work saying, oh my gosh, I just went through the most miserable experience by my house, they're gonna be like, holy smokes, you should have used my team, realtor and lender. They were awesome. And cool, check out this little thing that they sent me. And hey, remember those cupcakes you got when my loan got approved and we all hung out in a conference room and we ate cupcakes? Well, that's because he sent those to us because my loan just got clear to close. And how exciting was that? So I think we're going to go a little bit heavier on a little bit of strategic gifting, a lot of, video texting, hey, just real quick update, your loan just got approved, or hey, we just got your documents, I'm in between appointments. So we're going to go more on sort of the personal experience and elevating that.
I love it too, because food goes over really well. We used to send out brownies at the end of our transactions, and it was funny because then we'd get surveys back, and about 50% of them or more probably said like, oh, and thanks for the brownies, they were awesome. And you're like, wow, the experience was good too, right? No, but again, whatever it takes, I think, to get people to remember you is awesome. So I love your idea on that. Again, pro tip, inside the Mortgage Coach Productivity Mastermind Facebook group, you can go and hit search and look up gifting, and there's a whole thread on different gifts from all the contributors and all of you in the community on different gifts that people have done. So take a look at that. I think that was more towards realtor, or I'm sorry, more towards closing gifts. But I think that the strategic gifting within the process is something we're hearing more of, because again, clients are shopping. 90 days is John's, start to close, which, again, if it's longer or shorter for you, be thinking about what you're doing to keep your clients close. I'm looking down to see, like, we've got a book. I think this was, I don't know whose suggestion this was, but, like, we bought books like this for people whose kids are moving, right? So you send it to your clients so that they can reach to their kids on doing stuff about getting them ready for the move. And so just kind of cool little things that I think would be worth talking about. I'm going to shift gears now to video number 2, and there's kind of 2 pieces to this one. Number 1 is, it's Rick Shear, and he talked about his strategy for annual mortgage reviews. And I did 2 things. Number 1 is I actually highlighted a different video. This is managing your assistant, which is part of the Productivity Mastermind on our Friday series. He was also on a Tuesday interview. And then after this one, where he walked again through his specific process, I put this one in here because those of you who are leading teams, this is one of the videos that was on my almost made it list, because of the fact that he actually did 2 things in here. One is he nailed his annual client review strategy for us, and he also talked about how he gets agreements with team members to successfully lead his team in kind of a common sense way that you guys might like. You can use it with team members. You can use it with other people in your organization. I thought it was kind of cool. But then I also wanted to shine a light on the fact that Dave is doing these cool articles in LinkedIn. And seems like LinkedIn's kind of cool again. John, are you seeing people around you get more into LinkedIn again?
So what we notice, yes and no. So it feels like in the city markets, we are seeing quite a bit of action with LinkedIn, whether it's publishing posts and linking people and things like that. When you get more out into the suburban markets, we're seeing quite a bit less. I've actually hired a few loan officers specifically to get deeper in the suburban markets, and LinkedIn was one of my biggest strategies of getting connected and being relevant, right? And they came back to me and they're like, John, I just looked up, these 200 people and I found, 18 LinkedIn profiles. So, but yet in DC, in the city or Baltimore City, right, it's like massive. Every single person with a pulse is on it. But so yes and no, depending on where you are, I believe.
So, no, I love that. It just seems like it's a cool thing. So what Dave's doing is he's posting these articles in there. So he's got a bunch of them. He's got one on how John's using Mortgage Coach with realtors. So that one's cool. But this one is on Rick Shear in the annual mortgage review process. And I used to kind of consider myself the mortgage coach, king of annual reviews. There's a bunch of videos. There's an annual mortgage review playlist. And before I got on these calls frequently with Dave, that's what Dave used to bring me on for. But what I love what Rick did is he simplified the process. And so I'll kind of give you the quick overview of it and then read Dave's article and then watch this video that I highlighted down below. But what I found is that he sends out the month before. So for me, I would go after every single client and I was reaching out to all of them. What Rick said is, I'm only going to talk to the people who want to talk to me. Sends them an email the month before their annual review month comes up and says, hey, who wants to do business with me, right? He kind of gives them a script about the market changing and the economy changing and tries to scare them into talking to him, which I think is great. It's a script in itself. Dave's got it down below in this video, what he actually says in that email. And then he uses an app that is on the signature of his email that you can schedule an appointment directly with him. And he says a significant number. It's only about 15% who do it initially. And then he sends a second follow-up email, and then he gets more to do it, and they actually do a Sly broadcast. So they actually send out a voicemail that goes directly to everyone's voicemails. It skips the ringing part. I'm sure most of you've heard of that, but if you haven't, again, it's just called slybroadcast.com. They've got a new app for your phone now. And so he just sends out one voicemail to all of them. And he's getting a large percentage of it, and they're scheduling with him. So he's not chasing them down. That's like the new thing. So I always chased everyone down in my interview review process. Rick is having them schedule with him, and then he prepares his TCA. He goes through kind of his scripts with it. And again, keep in mind, you're doing it for a few reasons. Yes, it's great if you get the refi out of it, but really what you're doing is you're doing it to continue to provide value to your clients so that they will think of you when and if they're part of that 12% who need a new mortgage, whether it's to buy a new house, whether it's to get cash out some of the kids to school, whether it's to do some debt consolidation, whatever it is, you want to be the person that they think of. You also want to get referrals. It's a great time to ask for that. And then for me, the critical piece of it is that your annual review process starts on the first call, right? So I think you guys do this too, John. I mean, to me, it was a script right up front saying, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Borrower, one of the things that differentiates me is the fact that, I don't view this as just one transaction. I view you as a client for life. And then you kind of walk through your annual client review piece right there up front. So you're kind of differentiating yourself right up front, right? You're calling out the fact that this isn't one and done, that you're going to continue to go. And again, there's tons of great scripts in there. Are you using something like that, John?
So we've changed it, right? So the early part of my career, I think we did that naturally, but only when refi markets hit. So you would say to someone, we're going to watch the market manage the debt forever. And when we see certain communities elevate in equity and or we see interest rates drop to the point where you can strategically restructure your loan at no cost, we're going to reach out to you. What the annual mortgage reviews taught me through, a lot of the people that you've introduced me to, Todd, and specifically Rick's messaging here, is that it should be a core practice of something you do annually, not just when rates dip, because you don't really know when people might have a need. So we actually took some of Rick's scripts and emails, and we used them the latter part of this year with success. I two struggles that I had. One is staffing and the ability to do it consistently. I'm still struggling with that a little bit on, do you just do 3 a day, or do you take the first week of the month, or, how do you do it? So that's something I'm working through. I think using the assistant was the great way to do it. And then having my time be with the people that really just wanted to talk to me about their situation. So one other little sidebar that we've actually been using the annual mortgage review now to bring back the real estate partner. And I think Dave interviewed me on one of the videos. We talked about that. That's been a huge success. So far, end of year, there have been 5 referrals that realtors have received that went under contract. So it started with, hey, borrower, trying to do your annual mortgage review. When's the last time you talked to agent? And if they say yes, be like, oh, they're awesome. If they say I haven't talked to them in a while, be like, oh my gosh, they're so busy helping lots of people. They take their job so seriously. Would you mind if I call them to get the market analysis just to get an idea of what your house is worth? And it starts this volleyball of agent then calling, and then me doing the review, and then agent then following up to say, hey, did you get everything from John? And then they have that last plug at the very last phone call. Oh, by the way, if any friends, family, or whatever that need my services, I'm here for you, even if they just want to brainstorm about buying something 10 years from now. And with that, people have been getting real referrals that have now been purchasing. So I think that annual mortgage review is now, going into 2018 is a very key pivotal part of our strategy. And when Dave references 12% of your people moving, what's hard to measure is all those reviews that you do. And if you have a way of strategically bringing in the agents, how many more referrals come from that? Like, your business could just go parabolic if you do it consistently.
Yeah, I think that's key, right? So we had Danny Harani on our Friday call, and he talked about, he just got back from Darren Hardy's high performance forum. And his number one takeaway was that he was going to exhaust the database first. Sorry, I wrote it on my wall over here. And again, feeling that he only did 350 million this year. He came short apparently of whatever his ridiculous goal was. I know, that's what I was thinking. But ultimately, they're going after their database first. And so annual mortgage review is the easy way to do it. Again, there's a playlist in the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel on it. It's got all of my scripts in there. It's got Rick's scripts in there. I think that between the two of those processes, you can come up with a process that you can own. I love what you said, John. Absolutely. Use an assistant or someone else to help you create the mortgage coach, and then you do the one-on-one. John, you said struggling with time of day. Do you do it all at once? I think it's a matter of, it's either or, whatever works best for you. For me, I just made Fridays my annual review day. So I just scheduled them up on that day and got it done in one day. It was a lot simpler for me, but I know other people like Lori Richardson, who does a few a day. I mean, that's just a discipline of hers for years, where she's reaching out proactively to clients every single day. I forgot for her, it's either 3 or 5. And I mean, just think through from a scripting perspective. I always say it's memorize, right? So take what you just heard John say, or take what you hear Rick Shear say, take what you hear Danny say. And then you basically customize it for you, and then you internalize it so that you use it over and over again. But I do think it's a unique proposition, right? Dave always talks about Mortgage Coach as a tool that you're using to differentiate yourself from everybody else. And I think if you're talking about the fact that, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Borrower, up in that first call, that this is what we do, like, we're not just running off. I mean, however you want to script that, there's tons of scripts in the community on it, but really launch into, I'm different, I'm here to be with you. Goes back to that Mortgage Coach why I talked about around that first video. Then clients are going to appreciate that. I just think it's a great way to have somebody realize that you're different because you're here to educate. Any other thoughts on that, John?
So we had on a previous call with Dave, we talked about having an accountability partner, and what was made the adoption of Mortgage Coach much easier for me is I basically wound up showing all of my realtor partners what it was and what it looked like and how we're going to use it. And he said, I want all my clients to have it. So to what you just said about Mortgage Coach being a differentiator, it really is. And it does make annual mortgage. She said, I think when the loan closes, she just updates it. And I took that strategy. So they're all baked in there ready so that next year when it comes time, you can just jump into the client, change the current rates or whatever. And the annual mortgage review is kind of already buttoned up for you.
There you go. Great pro tip. All right. So speaking of realtors, let's jump in to up your realtor game. And again, this was a hard one, except for this first video was super easy. So Jeremy Forcier,
nice
#1 watched video of the year. I know I kind of felt bad that that's where the thing stopped. Maybe I should just roll it forward just so, we can, there you go. All right, that looks much better. Okay. Sorry, Jeremy, if you're watching. But, what I love about this is everyone always is looking for sort of a new spin, right? I always did sort of the old Todd Duncan high trust, asking them about their how they got into real estate, how long they've been in it, kind of them personally. And then I would ask them about what they love about their current loan officer. And then I'd go, all right, no one's perfect. What would you improve if you could? Or, on a scale of 1 to 10, how'd you rate them? And they say 10. I go, oh, that's awesome. Like, wow, I really love that. What would make them an 11? So they would tell me sort of what that one thing was. So Jeremy kind of breaks it into 5 questions in here. What did you find most successful this year? Number 2, what was your biggest pain or biggest challenge of the year? What is your goal? How many families do you want to help this year? And again, you've probably done that research already. You're going to know that, but that's okay. Again, you still want to ask them and look for that kind of commitment in there from them. And then you're going to ask them what are their 3 non-negotiable business and business and personal relationships, right? I mean, he's just looking for, that's kind of my question of, hey, what is it you like that your loan officers? They're telling you right there, hey, this is how to do business with me, which I think is awesome. And then lastly, he says, what would you change? If you could change anything about the process, what would it be and why? So again, then he's laying out for him, they're laying out for him exactly what they hate about their current, or don't like, I shouldn't use the word hate, they don't like about their current loan officer in that process. And then he goes into a pretty good script on, hey, that's awesome. I think I could be a help to you. The only way for us to really know is if you're willing to trust me with your next 2 transactions. And what I really like about that last piece is, I don't know about you, John, but I mean, I was never good about like going for that clinch at the end and asking for the business at the end. And Jeremy seemed to lay out a pretty good script that I think any of us can try. Anything you would add or any other thoughts on that video?
Yeah. So I think the fact that, what did they say? You have, I can't think of the saying, but basically it's like, shut up and listen, right? Like ask a lot of questions and just let them talk.
Listen. 2 eyes and 1 mouth for a reason, right?
Yeah, 2 ears, 1 mouth or something like that. Yeah.
2 ears.
So to listen twice as much. Yeah. So what I like about him going in and having the 5 questions is he's not presenting, right? So he's going in and you're almost allowing them to set the stage for the kill, for lack of better words, that I'm also not good at. So I feel like when I go into these realtor meetings, I had to, the John day, you shake hands and then you'd walk away and no one would send business together and they would say, wow, John has a lot of good ideas, and they'd go back to dealing with whoever. So I liked how he sat back, asked the questions, and then wound up getting the commitment. And as you get towards the end, if you follow all those questions strategically, they really do tell you how to work with them and what their hot buttons are. So lots of good tips there.
And my recommendation is, again, go in the meeting and just try it, right? Try to ask those 5 questions, why, rewrite the script, and then see how it works. And then afterwards, you can always say, okay, well, I would have said that differently, or, oh, that didn't work with this person and why, but learn from it. But, my guess is the reason it's been watched more than any other video this year is because it is good. It works. You'll notice here, this one only says it's got 852 views. This is the fancy version of it. They fancied it up, but the other one's got a couple thousand views. I will say this though, John, your video has only been out for a few weeks. It's like over 1,100 views, your last video with Dave. So I think it's going to crank it up too soon. I think you could have been, had that one been early in the year, you might have been number 1.
Nice.
But again, most of you are looking for ways to work with realtors. When I talk to you guys, that's like huge piece of it. And then keep in mind that this ties into the last thing we talked about, which was the annual mortgage reviews, because you heard John talk about how he's doing it. Again, Dave wrote a LinkedIn article on it. There's an interview with John on it. So make sure that you guys jump in on that. And it's a 15-minute video. This isn't even that long of a video to watch. So a lot of you complain about time. And so again, my action plan always is that when you get off of this call, right, schedule a block of on time, 30 minutes, an hour. Most of your clients aren't hoping for you to call today. No one thinks you're at work. So there's almost 200 of you on here. So I applaud you all for being here and learning today. But I would be focusing my day-to-day not on everyone else out there. I'd be looking at what is it I can do to better my business. And I think if you guys spend a little bit of time looking at some of these videos, writing down these questions, it's document too, so you can always email me. I'm happy to jump in there. I'll throw my email up at the end, or you guys can find me on Facebook. I'm going to switch gears too for a sec. So I'm going to go to Dave interviewed Nicole Solari a couple of times. This last interview of hers, he actually transcribed the whole call. And I think there's a couple of takeaways for me on this one, and then I'll throw it to John. Number one is the follow-up piece, right? She talks about how when people show up to her open houses, how she follows up like literally that same day, and how she separates people into A, B, and C, and how she's having huge success with that. So I think when you listen to a realtor interview, you're listening for a couple of reasons. First off, you're looking for ways to improve your own personal game, right? So she's talking about her follow-up and how she's crushing it. Second is you're looking to be a teacher. You're looking to help educate your agents on how you're learning from some of the best. She's only been in the business for 4 years. She's closing over 200 transactions this year. Tells you she's doing something right. Bill Hart interviewed her in the mortgage coach community. Dave's had her on twice. She's crushing it. Her open house strategy, in my mind, nothing crazy new about the fact that she's doing lots of open houses. But what's new about it is that she's actually following up with people. She's got a process. She's putting out lots of signs. We hear that. You can't not go on Facebook, any realtor group, and see them talking about this. But she's just telling you, hey, here's how I do it. And of course, it doesn't hurt that she works with Jeremy Forsey, so she's got a great loan officer in there. But I would definitely be using it to meet one-on-one with my agents, and I would be trying to figure out what of her follow-up plan with clients can I learn from that follow better with mine? Because I think that John and I would both say it. As originators, we all get so busy, and we're not always great at that. And so, here's someone who's kind of teaching us by upping her game, where she's friending them on Facebook, she's reaching out to them on a regular basis, and quickly. She's not waiting for them to follow up with her. What was your takeaway on that, John?
So love everything that she's done. So scripting, I said earlier, that comes up a lot. I think she was very well scripted. I think the way she positioned the loan officer was awesome. So in the first 12 years of the business, I did nothing but new construction. So single family tract home communities. My busy days were Saturday, Sunday, worked 7 days a week for like 5 straight years. But what I've learned is that through that, that was where the idea behind cash down and payment. And once people realized, oh, I only need that much cash and here's my payment. Oh, I can do this. And then they walk in and buy a $600,000 house in 3 hours. I still think that's crazy, but it's true. It's the idea of, oh, I can do this. And she said something like, why don't you talk to, my partner, Jeremy, and he's going to go over, the down payment and like really what things cost. And I think she even said, I was good at math, but I was like good in geometry, and he was good at algebra. So, so he's sort of the guy to talk to about that. And I think she had a good segue where she's like, I've got 3 kids. I mean, I live on a budget. I don't really care how much a house costs as long as I can afford it per month. And that was sort of the way of like transitioning over to lending partners. So I thought that was great. And then she, I forget the takeaway. I'm not as good as you at writing down my notes, Todd, but she said something like follow up until you're annoying, or it was something like she's pig-headedly disciplined about her follow-up. And so I think a lot of the agents that I meet with that are trying to grow their business, they just don't do enough open houses. And then even when they do them, they don't think about strategically what to do at every step of the way. And I had a meeting not long ago with a realtor team that does lots of new construction, boutique condo, conversions in DC, and call it maybe 150 to 200 units a year. And then maybe they have 7 open houses every weekend, and they have 20 to 25 people through each open house. And what we realized is there isn't a massive, awesome strategy to capitalize all 25 of those people and what they do. And if they wound up doing 4 open houses a month, that's 100 opportunities for one agent working open houses. And they might only get 115 leads a month. Yet they'll focus on those other 15 and maybe not the other 100. So what I love that Nicole did is she made the open house a core fundamental business practice of lead gen, whereas many other people are looking at just the online and Zillow and all that kind of stuff. So I was very impressed with what she did.
Well, I love it. And I think that agents start there oftentimes and they feel like they have outgrown it. They don't have to stay on an open house anymore. And she's saying, gosh, why would I stand anywhere else? Because it's a great opportunity for me to do it. She's great at capturing names. Again, sort of the couple of takeaways to bring to your realtors. Follow up. She's great at capturing names because she doesn't have a flyer or a piece of paper. She says, oh, I'll send you my digital flyer. So they have to register with her. She has an incubation system where she's putting them into a MLS drip system, which most agents actually have. And then I think you also have this opportunity to help script them to cross-sell you better, right? I mean, that's one of loan officers' biggest frustrations is that realtors don't do a good job with that. And so you can use this as a great opportunity. One other thing I thought of, and it's kind of on my honorable mention of best interviews, I think it's going to be in Dave's top 10 for the years. There's a couple of great calls with Chris Smith, right? Chris used to work for Quicken Loans, and he owns Curator. He wrote The Conversion Code. Great book. If you haven't read it, buy it. It's a great one to get and share with your realtors. But Chris talks about their follow-up strategy with new leads. And again, it's a great piece to educate your realtors on, right? He just talks about how they make 6 calls within 24 hours or within 48 hours, and they get a hold of 93 or 94% of their buyers. And again, same thing you can think about. Hey, can I be doing this with my leads? And just other pieces that you guys can learn from the interviews in there that are totally worthwhile. Because I think in the end, I mean, John and I talk about this a lot, is, you know, the lead follow piece is just so hard. It's not rocket science. It's just hard to actually execute, and more people, everyone knows what to do, but most people fail to do it, right?
Yeah, you know, on a Tim Rahim call, I was watching a video, and he said something I thought was interesting. He said, you know, he was at some event, and he was listening to all these great ideas, and then he said to himself, the only difference between me and them up on stage is they're actually doing it. So I thought what was neat about Nicole is she's just doing it. We've all heard all the same stuff over and over and over and over again. She just got into the business, and she's doing it. And it was refreshing to hear that or see it.
Yeah, you know, I always say it's my favorite, one of my favorite all-time quotes is Rosemary David, who's the head of single-family lending for Home Street. And what Rosemary said in an interview, gosh, a dozen plus years ago, when she was asked, what's the difference between you and everybody else? She said, most loan officers take it to 90%, and I just took it all the way, meaning that everyone else, they think about it, they talk about it, they start it, but they don't actually finish executing it. And, you know, it's just such the name of the game. And so, again, you guys have a lot of ideas coming here. What are you guys doing to take the ideas and move them forward, right? And so for me, you know, I have a discipline of review. I talked about it last week on the call that I did. And, you know, for me, I go in there and, you know, I take notes. So, right, I use my planner to take notes. And then I literally went in there and I tore out all the pages that I had actionable notes on. And then I wrote it into my to-do list for the quarter. And so are you doing some kind of weekly or monthly review and follow-up? And then how do you make it actionable? You know, again, if you don't have someone in your organization who can do it, then you've got to do it. So you just have to be able to distill it down from those couple of top ideas to get it down. And again, if you listen to that last week's call with Bill Hart and Michael Regan and myself, we gave some good strategies on that. So kind of as we move through the realtor thing, you know, I felt a little guilty about this one. But I don't know why your picture is not here, John, but I picked, you didn't have video. I was on a train that day. I didn't want to say that. I wasn't going to call you out on there, but I did. Of course, I had to pick this video with that I did with John, and you know, ironically, it's on the top 30 list, I think, for the year, which is good. But I didn't necessarily think that this call was the best example of it, because John was on a train. His train was late. He was supposed to have gotten into Grand Central Station to be sitting somewhere, and we thought, oh, what the heck, we're just going to run it anyway, even though he was on the train and going in and out of tunnels. And it wasn't our best technology related call. But there's a couple of takeaways that I want to bring up, I think, for realtor strategies going forward, right? Again, this is how do you up your realtor game? And I think that the number one way that you up your realtor game is to do business planning with your realtors. And there's a ton of great tools out there. You know, certainly my favorite is the Win by Noon Realtor Edition, but I also sent out last week to a lot of you the Building Champions one-page simple business plan is a great tool, but you need something to sit down and help your realtors be better business people, right? You have all benefited from this community. You are all business planners, but most of your realtors are not. So if you want to get them better, why not help them figure out what are their goals, right? Goes back to Jeremy's question. How many families do you want to help this year? So start off with a tool that has that in the front of it. I'm looking for mine, but I didn't quite plan that well to have it here because I wasn't thinking about that, but maybe, just maybe, you know, but ultimately, you know, again, what are those Q1 goals look like, right? Help them with some form that they can use to get it out there. And then you've got a reason to call weekly as an accountability partner, which John mentioned, to your best agents. Worst case is you're meeting with them monthly or calling them monthly. And then you've got a quarterly meeting at, again, worst case, you're face to face, and it gives you a reason. If you get their buy-in and you hold them accountable, it'll also make you be accountable to them. And it's just a great way to grow your business. And John had some other great points, on it. But, I think that what I've seen from John, and this is just kind of as an observer of John's business this year, is that John's used Mortgage Coach and implemented it in a way that's been great for clients and for realtors. And two is he's implemented Win by Noon in with his team and with his realtors. What else would you add there, John, how you can use business planning with your realtors to help them grow?
So I have hired 4 new loan officers this year that are out calling on real estate agents. And they say, what is our core selling proposition? Why us? And one of the things, prior to them joining us is I said, well, we help realtors run better businesses. And they said, well, how do I do that? How am I the guy that's going to go out or grow and sell? I'm going to help you run a better business when I don't know, I'm not a coach. The Win by Noon book actually made it really easy for them because it has such regular basic principles all baked in, all the stuff, Todd, that you've been sort of like, using as kind of coaching to loan officers and then to your realtor partners in the past. It's right there in the book. So that was a great way to just say, well, let's first talk about what it's like to run a good business, you as a loan officer. And really our businesses are exactly the same. Like, it's just where our leads come from is a little bit different, but how you handle the first phone call, how you're scripted, how do you follow up with those people? Do you deliver value or not? Do you have a differentiator or 10, right? Like what is your thing that's different? So yes, we use Mortgage Coach. Yes, Win by Noon, but Win by Noon made it very easy for my regular non-coachy kind of loan officers to go out there and deliver the same message and actually help realtors run better businesses while improving and stepping up their own game too. So the disciplines that came from that have been real instrumental this year and kind of how we're finishing up.
Well, and I love discipline and accountability. It was interesting. So I was at Sales Mastery and I sat in on their manager, whatever they called it, the first day. And Todd Duncan did a study this year of loan officers, and it's not surprising. 91% of loan officers have inconsistent month-over-month fundings, right? And so, unfortunately, it's probably a handful of you on this call, right? Meaning you're doing this up and down and up and down. And then 94% of loan officers he found go into the day with no plan for their day, which, of course, I love because it speaks right into Win by Noon, right? Plan your day each day. And but it's not surprising, right? If there's 3% of you who get lucky, who don't plan your day and have consistent fundings, but ultimately 91% of you don't. And so this summer, and I've told the story before, so pardon me for those of you who heard me say on these calls, but I talked to a real estate brokerage when I was in Portland, Win by Noon, and I quoted that strategy, I quoted those numbers, those statistics. That was the word I was looking for. 91% inconsistent month over month, 94% no plan for their day. And the real estate broker was just sitting right there to my left, and she just laughed, and she looks at her group and says, guys, that applies to us just exactly the same in our industry. So John just nailed it, right? They have the same problems that we have. And so use statistics like that, help them with business planning tools, get face-to-face with them. Certainly you can't give away what you don't possess yourself. So you've got to sort of think about how you're approaching your day, your week, and what you're doing. But it's just such a great opportunity to help somebody, whether they're already crushing it, right? Your agents who are really doing great, they still may want an accountability partner. They still may be interested in hearing how structure works. And then also it helps you out. I've had a number of clients who have been in the business 20 plus years who've reached out to me and said, oh my gosh, now I've got a mastermind group around this with my agents. And between 8 and 12 agents, they're meeting monthly. They have a waiting list in one group now where they're interviewing people to get them into their group. I mean, it's really become kind of a unique selling proposition for a lot of people who are willing to take this approach with their clients. And so I'm just going to challenge you is, could you do this differently? Is there a way for you to work one-on-one? Is there a way for you to work in groups? Should you be going out there teaching in a brokerage? However you want to approach it, whatever you're comfortable with. But it's such a great opportunity for you to improve your own game and then help someone else improve theirs, right?
I agree. The only other little sidebar to that is if you're not the teacher, right? Just deep down, you know the principles, but maybe you can or just have some reluctance to teaching, but yet you have some peers in your office that all want to go out at the same initiative. Have one speaker. One person can sort of MC and sort of teach principles, and others can fill seats, and then you can have little breakout sessions in the groups based on the seats that were filled. So you can just because maybe you feel like you don't have it in yourself. I think you probably do, and just need it unlocked. But maybe buy into a little bit of a group and try that first.
No, and I like that. And I do agree with you, John. They have it in them. You just have to believe it. I would say that there are a lot of people. In fact, I see some of you on the call today who are using I sent out the recording for the realtor best practices around Win by Noon. And so I've sent it out. A lot of people are just teaching it that way, or they're going to use the videos that we created for a quick start next year and just sit in and play me teaching it too. So it's another way to do it. And you don't feel like there's a lot of pressure, and I'm happy to answer any questions on that. All right. Anything else, John, we should say on the realtor piece, how to improve your game with realtors? Anything that we didn't cover there that you think we should add in?
No, I think we nailed it.
We nailed it. All right, let's move on to you. All right, how do we improve you? And so let me just start with kind of a basic one, right? We continue to talk about how video is super important. And I have to say that I love Kelly Zitlow's, her contribution to the community. So she came on to our Friday Productivity Mastermind call number 50, and she did a presentation to us as loan officers on her DIY video for marketing. Now, this is actually a class that she teaches to realtors. So it actually piggybacks onto the last one, improving your game with realtors, but really is how to improve you. And I had a few takeaways from this that I think are worth talking about. And then, we can kind of role play it. For me, it was just a roadmap of how to start in video. I mean, she went through how she reserves a day, or she just records for an hour or two, like on Wednesdays, I think, how she keeps sweaters in her office so she can change her clothes and look different in the different videos. And then she says you have to get over yourself, right? I always talk to you guys, and you're always like, well, I don't look good on video. And I'm like, well, okay, but my one eye doesn't open as much as the other. I mean, get over it. No one cares, right? It's all about you. And, my old coach used to tell me that people liked me on video because I wasn't very good. And I took that as a compliment, but he thought he was maybe insulting me. But really what he said is you're not polished, right? It wasn't like I made him perfect every time to try to make him great. And so, I think you have to look at it that way. But ultimately, she's giving you a gift here. Number one is she's telling you how to be better at video. Number two, she's giving you a PowerPoint in there that you can turn around, rebrand, and use yourself to teach it to realtors. And again, help your realtors grow their business. They need video too with their clients. You already heard John say earlier that he's texting videos to clients now. And so if you're not figuring out how to use video, I think you're making a mistake. And Kelly came on and did this. It was just really a tactical call where she, I think, spent about almost 40 minutes walking through this process. And I just thought it was spot on. And again, it's just a great way for you to take the fact that you're probably doing Mortgage Coach and not using your video, or maybe you already are doing video, but there's a couple of tips in there I think that you can use to sort of make yourself a little bit more effective. John, you've been using video a ton. What else would you say?
Nothing that everyone hasn't heard 100 times before, but it gets easier and easier and easier every time you do it. We actually started something here where every Friday we're doing a mortgage coach off. Like it's just a contest where I email all the loan officers and I
Sounds
say,
fancy.
here's the scenario of this person that you just got off the phone with. Now do your video, do your mortgage coach. What options did you present? And we actually had a few people that when they started, they just did voice, when you pull a mortgage coach and you can record audio only, and they just did the voice, and they're like, I don't want to do video.
Cheating.
And then
That's
they did
cheating.
Exactly, it is cheating.
But it's better than nothing. Better than nothing.
It is better than nothing. It is better than nothing. So then they did their first one or two, and they were awful. So, and then we all applauded. We're like, oh, good job. You did it. Thanks for trying. And now here you are about 6 weeks later, nailing everyone. So I think it's just like everything. And Kelly says it here too. It's just doing it. And eventually you're just yourself. You're not. So the first couple times you do it, you're a little stiff and you're trying to have a message. And then like I hate my background here. I always have, but I don't care ananywhere. I love your background. It's just so simple.
I worked really hard on it.
So anyway, that was my big. This was an awesome video. I think everyone should watch it because our business has lost personalization. And I think everyone uses email now like it's text, right? I have a question. Let me write a fragmented sentence to you, end it in a question mark, and then you'll get back to me in 5 seconds. If not, I'll email someone else. And in the old days, you would meet and do face-to-face applications. So I think with the personalization, with the ability and understanding to use video and use it frequently, use it a lot, use it all the time. My brother, he's in the mortgage business and now 18 months in, had a $3 million month this month, really excited for him. He actually had a lot of leads. Yeah, he had a lot of leads kind of coming in. They just went cold. So he was out walking around last week and we talked about this video, not this, but just talk about video in general. And he's just walking down in between appointments and he's shooting video. Hey, Mr. So-and-so, we emailed each other a few weeks ago, hadn't responded back. Usually when that happens, it's either X or Y. And I just thought I'd reach back out to you on video, only had a few minutes. So anyway, reach out to me maybe after the holidays. We'd love to connect and see, about home ownership goals in 2018. And every single person replied almost instantly. And a lot of them funny, like, hey man, I'm not as photogenic. Great idea though. How about we talk next week? How about we talk later today? And it created banter back and forth. So it is the personalization of people seeing you, hearing your tone, seeing that you care, all that stuff really matters. And that, even just doing these, like, Todd, when we have Zoom calls or something, it's just seeing the person on the other side. It's different. So I think if video is not part of who you are every day, 4 to 6 weeks in, it will be very comfortable and you'll knock it out of the park.
Awesome. I love that. So clarifying question is, Rob, is he emailing that video or is he texting it to people to get a response?
Texting. So he's
texting. Love it. Because I think text is key, right? I mean, people are responding more to text. It should be part of your lead follow-up campaign. There's a couple of conversations, again, in the YouTube channel, which you can email me on. I'm happy to point you in the direction to talk about text and follow-up, but multi-channel follow-up. And I also think the word used is personalization. I think that's really important. We all know it, right? We're competing against digital mortgages, fast mortgages. And if you're going to compete against them, you've got to compete with yourself. People are going to do business with you versus some generic person. And so you've just got to build up that personalized version of you. I think if you're going to be yourself. And so, all right, last video I'm going to highlight is Josh Metal, the 5 traits of a millionaire mortgage professional. Now, first off, I'm not all about the money, so I don't love the title of it. Second off, it was a terrible one because Dave and I had to share headphones, so it's really awkward, the video itself. But Josh's 5 points were huge. If you're going to improve yourself next year, his 5 points are, number one, dream big, right? He talked about if you don't dream bigger, how are you going to get bigger, right? So I kind of believe that if you build it, they will come, right? The whole field of dreams. He talked about Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. Said feed your mind and creativity daily, right? And so, Josh is a huge proponent of a daily routine. That's his number 3rd, bookend your day, right? Start the right way, finish the right way. And part of that is he's feeding his mind in the morning. He's teaching himself. He always has learning time in there. And so you've got to schedule that on time. I already talked about it to grow yourself. But Josh is absolutely right. And I think that that's critical. And he said that you have to have a daily prospecting ritual. Again, I mean, one of the things for me, as I really surveyed around and observed, right? I observed the top people in real estate, top people in mortgage, and they have a huge prospecting routine. For Josh, it's a discipline that they never, ever stray from, around 2 hours of proactive calling leads every morning. His whole team does it. They do a gratitude meeting and they go right into this minimum of 2 hours of prospecting. You can't even call them. During that time, their phones, cell phones and office phones are forwarded to the receptionist. If someone calls in, they get, I'm sorry, Josh is currently assisting a client. And if they say, yeah, Josh just called me, then she'll put them through because that's part of Josh's prospecting. But if they're like, oh, no worries, and they don't use that terminology, it's just someone trying to get on Josh's calendar, she'll say, awesome, hey, Josh has a time available between 12 and 12:30 or between 2 and 2:30. So really prospecting is a key piece of it. So of course I love it. They do it before noon. And then last, he talked about investing automatically. And again, I think that's really critical, right? The mortgage industry has been great to all of us financially. And I think too many people didn't get that advice prior to the crash before. We've been on a pretty good run. And he just talks about, there's so many great opportunities and companies that you can just invest a little bit each month first before you do anything else. And so I do love that. I do love that idea. Josh is a friend of mine, and John, so what else would you throw in there from that, of sort of the personal productivity piece, how to make yourself better?
Yeah, so it's no secret I have a total man crush on Josh Metal. He's got great hair. He's just speaks well. He's just a stud. So I met Josh probably like 2-3 years ago, And a lot of these videos that you might see on YouTube where some person's trying to say, hey, this is what you got to do. And if you do this, you're going to be great. And trust me, I do it. There's always that feeling where you're like, I don't know, man, do you really do all that stuff you say you do? And he's that guy. Like he is, if I ever need it, you send him a text, hey man, how's this time? Let's connect, fully present, always helping, always enriching himself, big on the morning routine. So like everything in that video is so genuine and so him. And I've been fortunate to know him, at that level as a friend level. And I aspire to be lots of those things, but it's hard. It is hard to consistently bookend your day, right? It is hard to consistently time block and do your win by noon strategy and have your outbound calls and do all that stuff. So he's definitely someone of action that has found ways to conquer it, stick to it, and he believes in it because it's given him great, phenomenal success. That dream big thing, like to think one day, hey, I'm going to do doctor loans around the whole country. Who does that and then does it, right? So he did it. And so that's part of the dream big. So I thought it was really fascinating. I agree with you, right? The title sounded kind of cheesy, right? It makes you think like, egomaniac is trying to say, hey, look at me, I'm rich. But it's not. It's no, the millionaire next door. Like there's all these things about like what you should do to do better and be bigger, be better, whatever. And so I thought it was very well rounded. I thought an awesome video. It gives a lot of core principles. You could probably sprinkle in a little, Daniel Harkavy, life planning action in there too. I say quite frequently to people I meet in the mortgage businesses, I feel like you can stumble in this business too easily without a lot of higher degrees of either education or personal financial literacy. And then you can make a lot of money and then you can completely fall apart with it because you don't have that foundation. And I think that part of the, like the wealth side that he got, about saving money. And, he said he was in an office of, I think he said the top 5 producers, were bankrupt and foreclosures and stuff like that right after the crash. And he's like, I don't want to be that guy. So it's living life and business on a plan strategically every day, winning by noon, proactively, making his outbound calls. I think he makes it from like 8:30 to 10:30 every day is when he shuts his phones down or something. So, but I thought a great video, really inspirational and good for everybody to watch as they start the year.
I'd say a couple last things on it. One is I have a big circle around and I wrote down below, he's really curious. Like, John and I'll be at Masters Coach with Josh and a speaker will get up and then the room goes quiet and everyone's waiting awkwardly to see who raises their hand. And Josh always asked really interesting questions and he would do that one-on-one with us. He's just a guy who asks great questions. He really does follow these 5 rules. He's super disciplined. He's committed to these things. So I just say, well, what are you committed to in 2018? And he did say the 2 things he would do differently is he would get coached. Of course, as his coach and John's coach, I can say that I thought that was a great idea. And then he said, start investing today, right? Why wait? I mean, there's a ton of ways that you can do it. If you didn't do your 401k this year, open up an IRA, you got time, that kind of stuff. And so, I think there's great opportunities in there. Let me just throw out a couple of other videos that I would say that I wrote notes on before we run out of time. A ton of you ask me questions about CRM all the time. I would always tell you the best CRM is the one that you use. I stole that from Dave Savage, but I would say if you look in there, Productivity Mastermind number 41 is Danny Harani walking through, gives a sneak peek into the back end of their CRM. That's a huge one. All of the Robert Stover stuff, if you're looking for messaging, he did a lot of Friday calls around how to kind of do kind of messaging and scripting. I thought those were all, really great. And then I do think that John mentioned his recent one of how to get referrals. Those were just a couple other ones that stood out that we didn't have time to get to today. Any other closing thoughts, John, before we let these folks go spend some on time and start kicking some butt?
Yeah. So you said something that I actually wanted to talk about the little Josh Meadows skit, which was coaching. So, I've been fortunate enough to give some presentations in front of our company, and we have a lot of loan officers, I guess. I don't know what it is, 13, 14, 15, who knows? It's a lot. And then, of course, through these, mortgage coach videos, I'll have loan officers reach out to me around the country. And it's something I always love, just trying to help people run better businesses. Right. It's kind of like where I am in the real estate community, and it's Todd. It's kind of like who you are as an individual as well. And what I would say is the common theme of all of the successful people, all the stories of I went from here to here, now I want to go here, but I'm on the right path, things are going in the right direction. It was centered around mortgage coach. And when I say mortgage coach, I don't know if I would say it was all centered around, and this is from real phone calls, I don't know if I would say it's centered around from people saying, I use mortgage coach. It was the YouTube education, the Tuesday masterminds, like all the coaching you get just for being a mortgage coach subscriber is awesome. But then the other key was real coaching. And I don't believe that our industry has enough real coaching leaders, which is a very interesting leader, right? It's one thing to be a top producing loan officer that answers questions and helps with fulfillment and getting loans closed. It's another to unlock the potential that's buried inside of someone. And so the other common theme was coaching. I'm massive proponent of it. I started 4.5 years ago. I'm a different person in business and I'm a different person personally as a result of it. So I think other big great thing that Josh said was coaching being a foundation.
So I love that. All right, guys, we're at time. So let me just throw up a couple of last things. So here's how to get a hold of me, Todd@winbynoon.com. If you've got questions, I was super surprised to see so many of you here today. Grateful for all of you taking time out, especially grateful for my good buddy, John Downs, who had 40 people at his house last night and still woke up, drove in his office to be here. So appreciate you, my friend, very much. But you know what? I'm proud of all of you guys for taking time this morning to be here and to finish out your year this way. So I think you've got a gift of the next 3.5 days of low call volume. And I think you can take advantage of this time and really use it for you. And so I would dig in, let me know what other videos you think John and I missed, but thanks for being here. On behalf of Dave, John Downs, Todd Bookspan, myself, just thanks for being here. We appreciate you guys. I will be here on January 2nd. I'm launching into really kind of what are some of the common themes going into 2018 that we're going to tackle. So appreciate you all. Have a fabulous day. We are out.
Awesome. Thanks.